I've got a tiny YouTube channel in a niche corner of the internet, and it generated $47,146, 1,600 leads, and closed contracts I never would have seen otherwise. If you think you need a huge audience to make real money from YouTube, you don't. You need the right audience, people who already have a problem you know how to solve. That's what this video is about. I'm going to break down exactly how I built the channel, how the money actually came in, and what I do differently today. So if you're sitting on a skill or an expertise and wondering whether YouTube is worth your time, you'll have a real answer by the end of this video. One thing I want to make clear before getting into why I built the channel in the first place is the channel is not the business. The channel is the proof. When I started my channel, I was a senior level web developer. I wasn't trying to become a YouTuber. I was trying to get more clients and sell a course I'd already built. YouTube was just the most efficient way I could think of to put my expertise in front of people who actually needed it. That distinction matters more than anything else I'm going to tell you today, because the type of channel I've built doesn't depend on a huge number of subscribers or views. So the strategy isn't to get views, it's to create trust. I have a skill in the web development niche, and I've built an audience of people who value that skill and wanted to learn it. And the channel did the trust building for me 24 hours a day on autopilot, while I was busy doing client work. That's the model, and it's a lot simpler than most people make it out to be. So what does that actually look like in practice? What kind of content brings buyers instead of just viewers? One of the traps I used to fall into way back when I started to make content, way before I even started YouTube, was to make content for people who were at the same level as I was. But that strategy doesn't help you get clients or sell products. Instead, every video I made was aimed at one person. Someone who needed what I did, but couldn't do it themselves yet. Beginners who wanted to learn. Business owners who were trying to understand the space before hiring someone. People with a problem actively looking for a solution. The topics weren't random either. I thought about what someone types into Google or YouTube when they're stuck. Specific problem-first searches. Not what is web development, but how do I do X or best Y in current year. That's buyer intent. That's the difference between attracting an audience and attracting a pipeline. And because every video was teaching something useful, by the time someone finished watching, they weren't just informed. They trusted me. They'd seen me think through problems. They'd seen how I worked. So when they hit a wall they couldn't solve themselves or needed someone to build something for them, I was already the obvious choice. That's the content strategy in one sentence. Be useful to the exact person who'd eventually pay you. So let's talk numbers, because I think this is what surprises most people. The 47,000 came from courses. That's the part that's easy to point to, a product, a price, a transaction. But it's actually the smallest part of the story. The rest came from contracts. Client work that came directly from people who had watched my videos, decided they trust me, and reached out ready to work with me. No cold outreach, no pitch decks, no awkward just following up emails. They came to me. And because they'd already spent hours watching me work through problems, the sales cycles were almost non-existent. There was nothing to overcome. The trust was already there. My channel was proof of competence. That's the part that doesn't show up in the course revenue number, but it's the part that actually moved the needle. And here's what makes it interesting. 1,600 leads from a 3,000 subscriber channel. That's a 53% lead rate. Most paid ad campaigns would kill for those numbers. The difference is intent. These weren't people who got served an ad while they were trying to watch something else. They came looking, they found me, they watched, and they raised their hand. So the real question is, what would your business look like if 1,600 qualified people already trusted you before your first conversation? That's what the channel actually built, not an audience, a pipeline. Let's just zoom in a little on why this specific type of channel, where you show your face, works so well as a sales asset. Think about what happens in a typical sales conversation. You spend the first half of the call establishing credibility, explaining who you are, what you've done, why you're the right person for the job. You're fighting for trust in real time against someone who has no reason to give it to you yet. But if someone spends a few hours watching your face and hears how you think about a specific topic, you become an authority figure in their world. The video format creates what some people call a parasocial relationship, where the person watching you feels like they know you, kind of like music bands create a fan base. A typical email I get looks like this. I'm running an AI automation business and we're trying to do X, Y, and Z. Can you help us figure it out? That's not a sales call. That's an order. And that's the thing about YouTube that nobody talks about enough. It doesn't just build an audience, it collapses the trust timeline. What would normally take months of networking, referrals, and back and forth emails gets compressed into however long someone spends watching your videos. For some people, that's an afternoon, and at the end of that afternoon, they trust you more than someone they've met at 3 industry events. That's what makes it such a powerful asset, not the view count, not the subscriber number, but the depth of trust it builds at scale completely passively while you're doing everything else that running a business requires. So what would I do differently if I wanted to add YouTube as an inbound channel today? Honestly, quite a bit. Let me explain. I wouldn't change the content strategy, the problem-first topics, the beginner-focused videos, the buyer intent approach. That all still works exactly the same way today. The fundamentals haven't moved. What I'd change is the offer and the funnel strategy. I'd create a productized service that makes fulfillment easier so I can spend more time growing the business. A fixed scope, a fixed price, and a clear outcome. When you've got a channel sending you inbound leads, you want to be able to handle that demand without it creating a bottleneck. Also, something that I think is worth mentioning, and it's something I did with my previous channel, is to build an email list from day one. The channel drives traffic to a landing page, and you can turn that traffic into an asset you own. YouTube can change its algorithm tomorrow, and your distribution disappears overnight. An email list is yours. Every lead that came in through the channel should go straight into a sequence, nurturing, educating, building on the trust the video already started. And the last thing I'd do differently, I'd have started sooner. Not because YouTube is easy or fast, but because the compounding effect is real. Videos I made in year 1 were still bringing in leads in year 3. Every piece of content you publish is a permanent asset working for you in the background. The best time to start was 2 years ago, but the second best time is now. So who is this model actually for? Because, I want to be straight with you, it's not for everyone. It works if you have a real skill and a good offer. A consultant, an agency owner, a founder who built something useful. If you know something that your ideal client needs to know and you have a clear way to monetize that knowledge through services, through a productized offer, through courses, YouTube can become the most powerful lead generation channel you've ever had. It doesn't work if you have nothing to sell yet, and it definitely doesn't work if you're expecting results in 30 days. The first few months are slow. You'll publish videos that get 40 views, you'll question whether any of this is worth it, and then something shifts. A lead comes in from someone who watched 3 hours of your content and already decided they want to work with you. And you start to see how the whole thing fits together. So if that's a system you want to build and you'd rather not spend the next year figuring out the content strategy, the funnel, and the production side on your own, that's exactly what we help with. YouTube-based acquisition systems designed to generate inbound leads for founders and B2B business owners. Not vanity metrics or viral moments, just a steady stream of qualified people who already trust you before they ever book a call. If you want to know what that looks like for your business, there's a link in the description. And if you're not at that stage yet, that's fine. Start with what I laid out in the video. Find a topic your ideal client is already searching for, make something really useful, hit record. The best thing about this model is that every video you make today is still working for you 3 years from now. That's the game, and it's one worth playing.